If you had to prepare a 2.5 hour set list for a show you would put on twice a day, 36 times back to back to back, would you be able to pretty much fit all your gear into one case? I figured out how. I recently had the opportunity to play with one of the biggest circuses in the world, Circus Roncalli in Germany, and I was able to fit 3 guitars, my B-rig, and all my accessories into a single case. And after getting so many questions on Instagram about how it worked and how comfortable it was to use, I thought it'd be a really cool idea for a video, because I used to be someone that was very picky about the kinds of things he would need to be able to perform live comfortably. And after going minimal a couple of years ago, it's been amazing to see this solution work so well for something so demanding. So these were Christmas shows, but the repertoire was all over the place, not just Christmas carols. We had hard rock, we had tarantela, then samba, then some Danny Elfman scores, some Hans Zimmer stuff. So it was very eclectic and you needed a lot of tones. The MD had a lot of experience working for other circuses and big productions all over Europe, so he was really good at arranging for different types of instruments and orchestra formats. In our case, we had guitar, drums, bass, but also trombone, violin, alto and tenor sax, and 2 people playing keys. And we were also running tracks for very specific things we couldn't cover. Of course, you can cover a lot of ground with that lineup. It was pretty clear early on, talking to the MD, that I would need some sort of like acoustic derived guitar. And so I asked him if it would be cool with me bringing along my Godin Multiac Mundial, my electric nylon. And he was all for it, which is really great because I don't really get that many chances to, take this out. It has a very specific sound that you really need to tweak to get right, in my opinion. But when you get what you're looking for, it's one of the best ones out there. It's pretty much as thin as any normal electric guitar. So, it saves a lot of space. Of course, that definitively established that I needed 3 guitars with me because I was not about to do those 5 hours of playing a day. 70% of the show was playing the electric guitar on just one guitar 36 times and hope that nothing went wrong. The thing is, this is not any regular show. This is a circus. And as it was made clear to us really early on, there's people who are actually risking their lives every night. And something as simple as something in the band, something in the music they're used to listening to and working with, not coming out how they're used to hearing it, could throw them off and actually, get everybody in a lot of trouble, let's just say. So, and we actually had instances of people coming up to us a couple of times and asking us to change something so that it wouldn't distract them. And there were a couple of instances in which I did have to swap out guitars because I broke strings twice, which hasn't happened to me in, I seriously don't remember the last time I broke a string live. A few months before I was approached for this gig, the people at Quantum Industries reached out and asked me for my feedback on the new version of their GTX series, which is their 3 electric guitar case vault. I was happy to do that because I've known the brand since they were introduced. I followed Jacko, which is their founder, since way before that. And I always thought it was a cool product. So when I realized I would have to figure out a way to take these 3 guitars with me, plus all the other gear, and safely travel with them by train or plane, and then also, pull it into the circus tent and then out back into my hotel room every night so I could practice and record and do all that, I immediately contacted them and asked them about the case. Now, disclaimer, they didn't just give me this for free. They didn't ask me to make this video. They just gave me an artist discount. And you're getting my full unfiltered opinion and my honest takes on what the experience was like. So this is actually the AGX, not the GTX, because the GTX couldn't make it to me in time. So they're cool enough to just send me the AGX, which was ready at that time. And the A in AGX, I believe, stands for acoustic, because basically it's the same format, but this has a slightly deeper lid so you can fit acoustic guitars. And the other nice thing about it is that you have modular pads on the bottom which allow you to set it up for 3 electric guitars, 1 electric, 1 acoustic, 2 acoustics or 2 electrics. The case itself is made out of polycarbonate and it's really light. It's basically, it's a little over 13 kilos and it's really easy to travel with. I ended up taking the train because it just ended up working out the best for me. And I had no problem making it fit in different compartments and different sorts of trains. The only problem I had with this was that I was also traveling with a really big, really heavy suitcase that had half my home studio, plus all the stuff that I would need to, be away for a month. And getting in and out of trains was kind of complicated. But, pushing them around and walking with them was very easy. One of my buddies suggested that it would be really cool to have another set of wheels somewhere on the lid, like the front part of the case, and not just the ones on the back, because that way you could just push it around and not really have to like turn it over when you have to correct your direction and you're already carrying a bunch of things. But of course, the problem with that is that I have no idea how you would make that fit and still have this room, like this space that it has at the bottom for the guitars and whatever else you need, especially if you want to put an acoustic guitar in here, which, you'll definitely take a big chunk of that. But I don't know, maybe it's something that they could look into. I have no idea how they would make it work though. Also, a bunch of people asked me about the seal on it because we had rain and snow. It's pretty snowy. This thing is handling it extremely well. It's been really icy too, and no problems, no issues. The guitars have to sit outside for a solid 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes between me like getting out of the circus and walking back. Obviously, I didn't measure how much snow there was on the ground in that video you just saw, but it was still fairly easy to move around with it, which I was very surprised by. As far as the storage goes, I don't have everything with me here, but I was able to fit my iPad, all my cables, my expression pedal, my page turner, string changes for all my guitars, a bunch of cables to charge my iPad and my phone and some of the pedals, all the tools I took, earplug, and more importantly, my B rig, my Unreal DSP Nano Cortex. My main rig was the Quad Cortex, which I'm not going to show you because I'm using it to record this right now. And, let's be honest, we've all seen a Quad Cortex at least 100 times this week. But this was basically my backup in case something happened to that again, because I had a couple issues with it in the past. Thankfully, that was not the case. And this ended up being a great audio interface to take back to my hotel room. Pleasantly surprised by this. Also, the really nice thing about it is that it's USB-C powered. If something happened to my Quad Cortex, I could just take my iPad charger and plug this in and just continue playing. And now for what is probably the most important part of the rig, my Schecter USA AM6. I love this thing. It's super versatile, super comfortable, super stable. I didn't have to adjust a single thing through all those temperature changes. My Mayones Regius 6M, this is a 2008 model, so it's an old one. It's almost 20 years old. I used to tour a bunch on it, but I mostly leave it to just play rock metal stuff now because of the pickups. It's super comfortable, amazing sounding, and really reliable. And sometimes I would just, swap to it to play the more like rock sounding numbers. Also, I forgot to mention this, but I've been carrying the Quad Cortex around in this case. It's official case. It has a bunch of space for cables and its connectors, and it's very convenient. The handle, the rubber part of it broke like a bit over a year ago, but everything else holds up. And yeah, that's it. Obviously, I don't have decades of touring experience, and this is not cheap by any means, but when you start thinking about all the stuff that you would need to pull something like this off just 15, 20 years ago, I don't know how much simpler things can get from here. Let me know what you think. How would you do things differently to make something like this work? And I'll see you in the next one.